uncensored. Welcome to Hauntoverse Uncut. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Hauntoverse Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barchek, Lord of the Dark, joined once again by my great friend, Mr. Brian Bass, the famous Brian Bass that we talk about all the time.
I get many mentions, but it is an elusive fame. How are we doing today, Andy? And this beautiful afternoon in the spring. You know, you couldn't tell it's spring. Oh, who's that?
Raptor Dog.
We have a guest appearance.
Raptor Dog loves being on the show. Good old Raptor Dog.
Man, it is 2018. It's springtime. It's the first time our temperatures have hit 70 degrees since, like, I don't even know when, maybe this year. And, this time last year, we actually did a show around this month, and we were like, what are we doing talking about Halloween Horror Nights in the spring? And that was more like leaks and rumors. This is an official announcement in April.
Well, last year we did have the announcement of American Horror Story by this point.
That's true, but that wasn't too much of it was a return. No one really saw that coming, or everyone saw that coming. No one really was surprised.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, like, that's one that they went in really early, announced it, and we didn't hear anything last year for HHN.
True. That's true.
Until like the very late summer.
I have never waited so long to book a ticket, and people probably get annoyed with my theme through the show of like, am I gonna go? Am I gonna go? You're not going. I'm gonna wait. Ticket prices were so good that I was like, you know what? They waited so long to announce everything, but I'm just gonna go for it. And it ended up. We never did a recap show. It was a great year. I'm glad I went. It'll probably get me back this year, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Well, the thing about it is if you went that last year, the ticket prices this year are even better.
Yeah. So that's my wife and I have an ongoing running joke now. That's she's like, this is kind of our bit. You say you're not going to go, and then they announce something, and then it's like, well, now I kind of got to go. We joke that I'm not going to go every year. But the 2-for-1 deal last year, when they dropped the ticket prices back to something that was actually appropriate, and where it was 5 years ago when I lived in Orlando, I was like, okay, we've gone as far as we can. There's nothing they can do this year to entice me, because I still had to buy a fast pass last year, which is exuberantly priced. Ridiculously priced. Makes the event worth it if you can only go one busy night. But then they come out this year with a buy one, get one free. And changes everything, right? You and I weren't going to go. We had no interest in going. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, buy one night, get the second night free for the same price as a ticket last year, which was already low. So
yeah. And that's the thing that's selling me right now is as you know, from last year, I went to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood, maybe do the recap right now. Hollywood did not sit well with me last year.
I heard that from a lot of people.
Going into the event, I heard early reports saying that there was a lot of black walls, lots of half scenes being done. And I thought to myself, I'm like, no, there's no way it could be that bad. There's no way that it could affect my experience, in such a way that I wouldn't have a good time. Brian, when I say this, it did affect my experience. The amount of black walls I thought was ridiculous. Like the one part in The Shining, like I remember, like there's like a full scene on one side, and then literally the wall opposite that and the turnaround into the next room was all black walls. Like no wallpaper,
no effort,
no nothing. And the other thing that bothers me about Hollywood is it's very formulaic. Every single house follows the same formula. It's transition scene where somebody pops out at you, transition scene when somebody pops out. Like there's like what's going to happen. The only thing that changes is who pops out. Yeah. So in the Halloween house, Michael Myers pops out. In the Shining house, Jack pops out.
Yeah.
In whatever other house you're going through, something pops out at you. Like in the American Horror Story house, the pig face guy pops out at you. It's the same thing over and over. And so HHN Hollywood, not an event that I really look forward to going back to maybe ever again.
And it's crazy because this time last year, if you go back and watch our shows, we were 180. I didn't want to go to Orlando. Orlando had kind of broken both of our trusts just on price alone, and kind of formulaic, but just really crowded and not worth the price, because you could go to Hollywood for half the price, literally. And you had an amazing time the first time. And this time it's, you know, it's hard to hear. And we actually both 180'd. I went to Orlando just because I could make it work. I love haunted houses. I'm going to go. And I got there and was blown away from this year's event, or that year's event. I'm hoping a lot of the things they did differently last year that I noted, that they carry on to this year, because it really changed the experience of the houses. And I was so bummed because I want to do Hollywood someday, but I hope that they can, you know, maybe turn it around and maybe invest in that detail that they didn't have this past year.
Well, I kind of feel that the backlash from last year is really going. I'm hoping that it affects how they do things this year. And if it's a budgetary thing, then the place was packed when I went. The place was wall-to-wall people. And I'll say this, it felt more crowded at Hollywood than any Orlando place. Now, Hollywood's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit more compact. So you're going to get that feeling. So I don't know, you know, raw numbers, what they do, because Orlando's so much bigger, you know, and they can space out people and lines and stuff. But I just felt like there was wall-to-wall people. It wasn't a poorly attended event by any sense of the word. So hopefully they start reinvesting that money there.
Yeah, because that was a common theme from everybody who went. So, and I know that you went in thinking there's no way, people are being dramatic, you know, whatever. There's going to be dead spaces in a house. Horror Nights is usually not known for that. So to hear that is really surprising, honestly, especially in a huge house like The Shining. That was massive when they got that last year. I mean, that's something we talked about all year. So what about the tram? How was the tram, though? I know that you loved that the first time.
I did. I loved it the first time. This time, I was actually laughing as I went through it because of how bad it was.
Oh.
They used a lot of the same sets for The Purge, so it's just like, okay, well, they do that every year. I get it. The part that irritated me the most was, and I'm sorry for forgetting, but they had the Icons house. With Freddy, Jason, and whatever.
And Chucky.
They were using some of the same scenes in the tram that they did in the house. And I'm just like, I thought the Icons house was the best house at Hollywood. And for them to water it down and make a lesser version of the same scene for the tram, I thought was stupid. I don't know.
That's pretty rough.
Chucky running the tram was actually the most entertaining part.
That's cool, yeah. He's a very vocal role, so that's fun.
So it was fun from that perspective, but overall, with the way that it was executed, I was just like, this is garbage.
So not heading back. You looking southeast this time?
Well, here's the thing. Here's my dilemma.
Yeah.
As bad as HHN Hollywood was.
Yeah.
That's how good Not Scary Farm.
Oh, okay.
I fell in love with Not Scary Farm. The only thing that holds me back from going back from Not Scary Farm is the fact that they don't do unique houses every year. They bring back houses, a lot of them. I'll tell you what, Shadowlands was some of the most unique stuff I've ever seen in a house.
Yeah.
Shadowlands is like their Japanese samurai house. You start off and there's different, like they put you in like the paper, you know, the paper wall room, and they send you different ways. They have samurai ninjas floating through the air. They have scenes with heads being cut off and people coming out. Like it was theatrical. It wasn't just a house. It reminded me of the house up at Valley Scare. With the Nordic theme, and where they put you in different places and told the story throughout the whole thing. It reminded me of more of a haunted house feel than that.
That's awesome. And I think we've talked about that's something that Halloween Horror Nights lacked, and especially having the contrast of going to Hollywood and then to Not Scary. Something, you know, my dream is to get out there one day, and everything you said about it last year was just, you know, raving on it. And is that something, do you think that, you know, I have a lot of friends who went to Horror Nights. They grew up going to Horror Nights, and they go to other places, and they're blown away to find out that these haunted houses occupy the space the whole time, or that they come back. And I was like, the problem is you've been taught incorrectly. Universal is one of the only, I mean, the very, very small percentage of haunts in the country that tear down their house every year and rebuild it. You know, in a sense, obviously they reuse some things, but do you think that aids for Not Scary where they really can perfect it year after year, and that's why they hold on to strong houses? Because I'm in favor of that. I mean, obviously it sounds like there's houses that if you had to go through again this year, you wouldn't mind seeing again.
Well, I would still say that overall Orlando's houses are probably, even though they tear them down every year, are probably of better quality than Not Scary Farm. Not Scary Farm it's still very Cedar Fairy with how they do the house. It's amped up to a different level where you obviously have a lot more budget, you have a lot more money poured in. I'll tell you, the Dark Ride haunted house that they did was classic.
Oh man,
it was amazing. I thought it's one of the best haunted houses I've ever been through. Not because it was scary,
but just atmosphere and that's so awesome.
It's the atmosphere. It's the story that they told. Like, you walked in the house, there was spray paint on the walls. There was a drunk sitting there saying, "Don't go in there, guys." They set
classic.
You up. They set you up for the house, and the house was well done. So it's not like it was cheap or anything. But it still has that Cedar Fair feel to it. You're not going to walk into Not Scary Farm and confuse it for an HHN house.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair.
But I'll tell you what, the scare zones, the ghost town, the amount of fog that they pumped in, like, Brian, when I said I put my hand in front of my face, I could not see it. That's how much fog. And I'm like,
that's a
this
dream.
Is how you do fog.
Yeah, that's literally every other park take note, because that is how you do it, because that is incredible.
And the event was well attended. I will say that I was a little disappointed with the hanging. I felt like the hanging's got like a big following.
They do. A lot of people rank it high above Bill and Ted's,
Not this year. I don't know if they went too far into the politics. It was funny. It wasn't like drop dead funny like Bill and Ted. You walk out of Bill and Ted sometimes and you're like, man, I can't wait to go see that again.
Yeah, exactly.
The hanging, we walked past it quite a few times. And
you're good. Yeah.
And then, of course, you had the amazing Halloween hootenanny. The hootenanny.
The hootenanny.
The hootenanny on the Timber Falls log ride, where they put scare actors.
The dream, the best possible thing you could ever do in a park.
The water log ride with scare actors, with haunt theming, with haunt music.
I'm afraid if I went, I would just do that all night. I've watched POVs of every year. There's an available POV. I show my wife it. She's like, this is so unique. I mean, it's so cool. People who typically wouldn't be interested in this content will recognize that's a really awesome idea.
Yeah.
And it's my dream to ride it. I'm green with jealous rage right now.
It was amazing. The line was ridiculous. The line was the longest line of the night.
Yeah, sure.
We had, and we went all in on this. So I went with my buddy Dason, and we went all in.
Shout out to Dason.
Shout out to Dason. No, we stayed at the Knott's Berry Hotel. We did the whole package with the dinner. We did the scare actor dinner, which was real creepy, because you sit there and we were like, there's only like 3 or 4 other groups.
So it's very intimate.
Like very intimate. There was only 10 tables in the place, and they've got 3 or 4 scare actors walking around.
That's awesome.
So it was uncomfortable to eat there, just because like sometimes you just want to eat and not have to deal with
that. Yeah. But why not? Let's go for it.
But we had the fast pass, the fright lane for the entire night. You could skip the lines on stuff and they would, check it off or whatever. There were no stupid skeleton key rooms, hold on. Were there skeleton key rooms?
I don't remember. Someone right now is watching. It's like, there were skeleton key rooms. We don't know.
I would remember going.
You should remember because you've talked about those over the years. You loved some. I know Scarowinds had some good ones, had a good haunt, but Valley Fair and Cedar Point do skeleton key rooms sometimes, and you kind of like the concept.
Well, I could tell you that there were no skeleton key rooms in the houses, that if there were, they were completely separate from the houses. And I'm getting Cedar Point confused with Not Scary Farm right now.
Yeah.
I know Cedar Point had completely removed skeleton key rooms this year.
Oh, have they? So was that a company? Did everybody remove skeleton keys?
I know Cedar Point removed it from the houses, and I feel like a lot of them are moving that way because it holds up the line too much.
It does, yeah.
And
it's a great idea, but it's hard to execute with a lot of volume coming through.
Well, I know at Kings Island what they did is they put the skeleton key room at the very beginning, so it was the first room you enter.
Okay.
So you could kind of judge the line off of that. Cedar Point, we're putting the skeleton key rooms in the middle of the house. So now you got queues forming in the middle of the house.
That kind of kills the flow.
That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So they got rid of all of that, and they put them separately. And to be honest with you, I am not remembering any skeleton key rooms at Not Scary Farm right now off the top of my head.
Leave it in the comments if there was. We don't think there was. I think Andy would remember it because, you raved about some of them over the years. So
I would have remembered something. We did do the infected shooter.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Which was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't feel
you got time to do it, have fun, but you could miss it.
We went right there to do that because we knew the line was going to get bad, even with Fastlane. So we did it. I don't feel like the point system was working correctly. It might have been. And the layout was really nice for if you just take it as a haunt. It was a really nice haunt.
Okay.
But as a shooter, I kind of didn't get the whole.
You have no reason.
Previously, they had put the shooter in Camp Snoopy, and you'd use the whole area and go back. And forth. They actually have a separate building now for the haunt.
Well, that's cool.
So it's contained. It's actually in their Mystic Theater.
So it's kind of but it's it's something different, and I guess that's what they're going with.
And maybe the most unique thing besides Dark Ride is they did the Pumpkin Eater haunt.
Yeah.
Which you would walk through and they would have the hanging stuff and face.
Yeah.
And the stuff would be wet. Like you were inside.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's cool.
Like it was really cool. I thought that was a really well done haunt. It was kind of like a mix between an indoor haunt and a Cornstalkers at the end.
Okay.
You got the little Cornstalker stuff.
Yeah, but very Halloween-y. I'm into that theme. So
yeah. So overall, I'll tell you what. I don't know if I'm going to go back to Not Scary Farm this year. I probably won't, just because they won't switch over enough. But this is something that I kind of plan to do, like
maybe every other year or something. Switch it up. Go
once every 2 years, once every 3 years.
Yeah,
it's kind of pricey if you do it. If you go all in on it.
Yeah.
We also did Magic Mountains Haunt, which to me didn't really do much for me. I thought, the haunts are it's a step above most Six Flags haunts.
Yeah,
it was a step above all of that. But it was still a step below everything
else. Yeah. Well, I see you're going up to some of the best haunts in the country, amusement park wise. So
that's the thing. So that's my recap of the season there.
Good. That's a good season though. It's good. A lot of people swear by Not Scary over Halloween Horror Nights. And I think on that side of the coast, I can see why, you don't have the production quality, but the content, the creativity, and just the variety really sounds, way more appealing and interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that Not Scary was the premier haunt out there. I still don't think it beats Halloween Horror Nights as much as it paints.
Yeah.
Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando just has.
I think something we always say, that gets misconstrued. We'll rage about things, whatever. But at the end of the day, Halloween Horror Nights, and this is why I went last year, no matter what they have or haven't announced or the quality, even their worst day is going to be better than 99% of all the other haunts. So,
and I did not go to Orlando last year. I skipped it completely. I'm still not over Dragon Challenge. I don't.
They're making it hard to be a fan right now, Andy. They're just chop, it's gone.
It's gone off the record. I do think I'm going to make it back out this year.
Okay.
But I still don't think I'm going to go to the day parks. I think I'm just
just do the nights. Yeah.
Find something else to do because
Islands right now without Dueling Dragons, especially for us coaster kids, it's hard to justify a full day. For the price.
I love Jurassic Park. I love to sit in that area. But
you love King Kong.
But is it worth $110 to walk through the door?
Yeah,
it's probably not.
That's kind of, I say that's right now. It's hard, So, yeah. Well, Orlando, it's on both of our minds. And last year, I flew down Friday night. I got into Tampa at like midnight, and then stayed halfway. Woke up the next morning, went down to Orlando. Got to do Mind Blower and all that good stuff, and then went to Halloween Horror Nights that night. And again, if you go back, we were pretty on the fence about how we felt about this event. And Orlando did some things that I was really happy to see. And I don't know if they did them the year before, because I believe that was the first year I missed. And maybe it was the year before that. They all run together. We're doing so much haunt stuff each season. It's really hard to tell. I had a great season last year. I did some local haunts with Robert Dole. We went and finally did Den Schoolhouse and USS Nightmare, which were incredible. I'll be back this year. But Halloween Horror Nights did some amazing things. Everyone talked about a bunch of the houses being some of the best they've done in a really long time. But things I noticed that they did well. And you talk about, this guy's going to pop out. This guy's going to pop out. We've been going enough times. We definitely can tell the formula. And I remember in the Shining house, I was walking through and I was pretty pessimistic about the Shining. We had the whole episode about, should it be a haunt? Does it make sense? Does it really do justice to the story and to the atmosphere? But each character had so many variety of scares. And that's something I don't remember seeing a whole lot. And I remember when the first scare that got me, he did his first scare and then he did a second scare. And it was the same thing. I was like, oh, that's cool. Then he did a third follow-up scare, all three of which had prompts. And it was completely different than what the first two was. And it caught me off guard so much because we were so conditioned to, okay, yeah, he does that, he does that. And that's how I felt. I felt like every character in a lot of the houses this year had different moves they could do, different routines. They had a lot of variety to the point where, and I was lucky enough, it was a Saturday night, late October, I got a fast pass, and I did every house twice, and I did half of them 3 times and one of them 4 times. On top of that, I saw both shows and rode all the rides that was open. It was, I walked about 16 miles, but it was everything I wanted to do. I was exhausted. But the event it made me remember why I love that place. The scare zones were good. The houses were top notch. Even the weaker houses, people gave Bloomhouse or they gave that some crap. I loved it. It was the third time, and this is where we go back with Halloween Horror Nights. You can go through the house 2 to 5 times and have an okay experience, but there's one time if you hit everything just right, it'll blow you away. And that was my third time. And they split the stories kind of weird. They did 3 movies in one house, kind of like American Horror Story did. But the percentage of time for each movie wasn't really appropriate. I feel like you barely saw one and saw too much of the other. But I really loved it. The original houses, though, I will say, kind of stole the show. And that brings us kind of to this year. Hold on, side note. One only problem I have with Halloween Horror Nights. I bought their specialty cup, right? It's got the split. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah,
it's split down the middle. The straw is very hard to drink out of. You can't get a proper seal around it. So it's not like, it looks cool. You got orange and purple. I recreated the drink from there, but I did purple soda, orange soda, but the straw, it doesn't really work. It's not not the same. Speaking of shows too, going back to that, Bill and Ted's. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Gone.
Yeah, gone.
With Dragon Challenge.
Now here's the gone. Everything's gone. Here's the thing.
Good.
We have another Bill and Ted's movie coming out. Do you think it's just a ploy? Do you think they're going to cut it for 1 year and then do a glorious return? Because I
feel like they cut it because of the movie, and they don't want what happens at Horror Nights to be associated with the movie.
Yeah.
So and I think if the movie does well, which who knows if it will, I think if it does well, we will never see Bill and Ted ever again. Yeah. And if it flops, I think that's when Bill and Ted will come back.
So what do we get this year instead? There's a lot of rumors, a lot of things popping up, and let's just transition into it.
Because we're not getting extra houses. That a lot of people thought that with the removal of Bill and Ted, you're taking out that budget. You don't have to pay all those actors. That you're going to get another house, and that is not the case. It actually sounds like we're cutting back on houses with 10 houses now?
Well, so they had 10 before, but it was technically that VR thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we were at 9 last year. So it would technically go back to a standard they already had. But the question is it a real house? No one knows if it's actually going to be a legit 10th house or just one of those extra bonuses, pay to do it, whatever. Bill and Ted's leaving is a shame. This year, I thought it was funny. There was the Moana segment is so hysterical. I listen to it often. But aside from that, it was kind of like, goodbye, guys. It was funny. I think it had its glory days. I think over the last 7 years, 2 shows have been really outstanding. But other than that, but do we get something like The Hanging? Do they just do the same show and reskin it? You know, are they going to expand there every year? Every year, Fear Factor Stadium's going away. Fear Factor Theater's leaving, and it's still here. It's been 10 years. People have been saying that, probably longer, and we still have it. So I really don't know. You definitely need shows. I liked the Jack show a few years ago.
It was good.
I caught half of the other show in the park.
The Academy of Villains.
Academy of Villains. It was fun. I liked it. But I didn't hang around to see it. I had houses to see. You know, there was some amazing stuff this year.
Because they also ditched the Rocky Horror Picture.
Beetlejuice, yeah. So, Beetlejuice Theater has sat empty several times over the last few years, and we had the drum show and a few other street performers. I'm a huge Rocky Horror fan. I hate that it's gone. I genuinely couldn't believe that they had it the first year I went, because it's very not general public friendly. And I can't tell you how many people walked out of that show because while they said, hey, we're not going to, you know, drop any F-bomb. We have inappropriate content. We're not going to swear and all that. We can't be responsible for what the audience does. Yeah. And to bring that show to the park, you know the audience is going to take over and do the call-outs as they do, which are horribly inappropriate and hysterical. And they brought that back 2 or 3 times, I think, and it was the end of it. So, you know, that theater sits empty. The Fear Factor sits empty. But honestly, this last event was so fulfilling. I genuinely didn't care. Throwback, I even liked the Lake Show that they did a few years ago. I enjoyed that. It was the year I was working, so maybe it was a little different because I, you know, got to enjoy the atmosphere. But I do think you need something along those lines. But it'll be 9 houses, 10 houses, regardless. I'm intrigued in going back because some of the houses last year were just the 3 originals that I loved were 3 of the best houses I've seen them do. So that's enough to bring me, you know, hey, look at this ticket, 2 for $1, $80. I mean,
that's a tough deal to pass up.
It's a tough deal to pass up. It's really hard.
Like,
so.
I'm wondering if they're shutting down all the rides for the night because you're talking about $80 to walk through the gate.
Yeah,
like, you can't walk into you.
And
you can go right to Transformers and Harry Potter.
One thing I noticed last year, that night had more regular stands out and less alcohol stands. And I don't know if that's something they've cut back on. I know that 2 years ago they had the controversy. This character came out and was like, oh, it's not safe. I got hurt. And everyone's like, oh, that happens every year. But regardless, the alcohol push at Halloween Horror Nights got to a ridiculous point, in my opinion. And this year I noticed, I don't know how much was cut. At the bars, it wasn't an open, a full bar. It was specialty drink, and maybe one normal drink. Yeah. And in years past, this year I didn't see any of the test tube shots. They had shots everywhere all over the park the last few years, and I don't remember seeing that. And I wonder, okay, how are they dropping ticket prices, but also cutting the alcohol, cutting back on the alcohol, which is the main moneymaker for that event. So, and there were less bars in the lines as well, which again, I appreciate. As a character, these people are rowdy enough. You don't need to encourage them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the one thing about Hollywood is you don't see that anywhere. That finding alcohol at Hollywood is you are hard pressed to find. You can find it, but
it's not shoved in your face. Yeah. And honestly, the event didn't suffer from it. It had a great time. I will say Trick or Treat was one of my favorite scare zones of the event. That just a random pop up, but I really hope we see that house this year. But I think it's time to get to the first house that has been announced and talking about the money making in this industry and the money making in this business, as they revealed what I was for sure. I assumed it was going to be this. I was hoping for a Brock Lesnar-esque swerve like at WrestleMania, and it was going to be it. I'm still not convinced it is not a house this year, but we did get, as I've themed my room, Stranger Things, which has been rumored. It's season 1. And which kind of guarantees it'll be back next year and probably the year after that because we know they at least have 2 more seasons coming. How do you feel about that? And it's April, keep in mind. Low ticket price, 2 for $1, and Stranger Things announced. That's no coincidence. You have people who've never been to the event who are like, I'm going to Halloween Horror Nights to see a Stranger Things haunted house.
Well, I think that's exactly the point here is that they are going to be drawing a brand new market that even with American Horror Story and Walking Dead, those are still horror-based content. Yeah. It's still horror-based. It requires a special group of people.
Yep.
Stranger Things has talked to a wide variety of people. It's not your traditional horror. It's not, I don't even know if it's really suitable for a haunted house. We're going to do it anyway.
I see. That's my big contention with it. But
so it's kind of like you're drawing in all these new people. Like, there are people talking about this. Like, I saw the announcement, and on Facebook, people commenting on it who had no intention of ever going to horror nights their entire lives are now saying that they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So now also it should be noted, this is not the first Stranger Things haunted house.
A lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know that we saw it overseas, in different European parks. But we also saw it here in North America. Six Flags Mexico did a Stranger Things house last year. I have no idea what it looked like. There might be a POV somewhere online. I'm sure there is with YouTube now. But Six Flags Mexico did Stranger Things, did it with full rights, did the whole logo. Who knows if they paid for it? I don't know. So it'll be really interesting to see what they did. You know, I have to admit, in my own haunted house at the high school, we did a Stranger Things hallway. So we were part of it. The music's awesome. Just the music,
the atmosphere. I'm going to interrupt you because I had general public people ask me, you know, some coworkers who don't follow haunts, they don't follow anything, but they're like, hey, we know you like haunted houses. How do you feel about that Stranger Things announcement? Which is like, that alone, to get them asking me that. Universal has really nailed the market. To be fair, other side note, amazing promo. I'm happy. I don't care, regardless of how the house is or what happens, to see Universal putting out solid, good haunted house promotions again is awesome. That upside down with the Universal, that's what they used to do well. And I was so happy to see that. But anyway, they're like, hey, what do you think? And I told them I have more opinions than you care to hear about this because it's true. And the atmosphere, the show is amazing because of the atmosphere. The writing's good. Everything's great. It's a slow burn. The characters are fun. The content is interesting. The nostalgia plays to a lot of people. Yeah. And like you said, it spoke to a lot of people that they even said they weren't even expecting to hit. But the atmosphere is amazing. Does it make sense as a haunted house? And I am so sorry. Broken record. Third year we've had this conversation.
Yes.
Exorcist, Shining, Stranger Things. These don't make sense as haunted houses. That being said, I went into The Shining as pessimistic as could be, and I really liked it. I know. Oh, I loved it. No, that wasn't it. I set it up for kind of a mediocre payoff, but it was better than I thought it would be. The part that I thought was going to be amazing was the hedge maze was okay. The parts that were incredible, the ballroom scene or the bar scene when you walk in, they had, and this was another thing Halloween Horror Nights had this past year, had group scares, group scenes where you're in with about 20 other people and boom, 6 things happen at once. And the dancers coming to life in The Shining will go down as one of my favorite things I've ever seen. Back to Stranger Things. Will it work as a house? Here's my problem. I said yes until I read that it's only season 1. Now I'm like, what do you have? Season 2 had the more dark horror monster, you had a lot more stuff to pull from season 1. I'd have to go back and watch because I haven't seen it 2 years or a year or whatever, but it was the Demogorgon or whatever. And I don't know what else. What else do you have? And again, to be fair, The Shining, what do you have? You have a ghost and you have a crazy guy. Halloween is the best example. It's one guy 25 times. So does it matter? No. But as a storyteller, as someone who likes the film world and television world, to see these things turned into 5-minute abbreviations, I don't know. I don't think it's as compromising as The Shining was because that's a huge story. There's so much to unpack. There's nuances. Stranger Things is pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. I think the atmosphere will be amazing. I'll love to walk through it. I'll be interested to see the scare factor. And that's all I'm going to say. It'll bring in the crowds. It's already garnered attention. They did it. They did their job,
Well, and I think that's what it's going to come down to is that it's going to be people wanting to walk through the series, walk through the TV show.
That's it. Yep.
It's, at some level, even like AVP, is that a horror movie? Mm-hmm. I loved it because I loved the content. So when I walked through the AVP houses.
But I still feel like Aliens and Predators are, they're still scary enough. They're scary. That alien puppet traumatized me. My wife laughed. She fell to the ground laughing as I crawled out of the tunnel screaming. So
yes,
I will go back though. You made an interesting point. That's an epiphany that like the creators are like, duh, you're an idiot 30 years ago. But I'm just now realizing, these IP houses, or whatever. The Stranger Things kind of makes me realize, because Shining is still scary and Exorcist is still scary. Stranger Things is on the side of like not so scary in terms of what we've seen Halloween Horror Nights do. And it's like a Disney World. It's like a Universal. It's like I want to go through to see the content I'm familiar with, regardless of if it does what it's supposed to. Disney World for adults, it's supposed to be fun for kids. Adults like seeing what they, grew up on. Universal, it's supposed to be thrilling, but like King Kong, not the greatest ride, but I love King Kong. So I love going to see the world of King Kong, regardless of if it's executed.
It's the old tagline of Universal, where you can ride the movies. And that's what Horror Nights is becoming.
Yeah.
Where you can walk through your favorite horror. Like, they're never going to do a Stranger Things ride.
No.
Like,
nope.
Like,
but yeah, you get to live it. You get to live it.
So here you can walk through this world, be a part of it, be scared, and if stuff's popping out at you, like, you're going to be scared regardless.
Yeah, you're going to get a startle. You're going to get all that good stuff. Regardless of if it makes sense or what it is. You'll see the famous Christmas light scene. You'll see the crazy mom. God bless Winona Ryder's part in that, because that had to be the most exhausting role for 2 years, just being that upset always. But yeah, like you said, it goes back to Holiday of Horrors, whatever year that was. I used to have all this memorized. I'm too tired. I got 2 kids now. I don't even know. But I remember when I went through Holiday of Horrors, and they did every holiday of the year, and they did Arbor Day, and a giant tree jumped out at me, and I got scared, because that's all. It's a startle scare. And it doesn't, it was literally my favorite example in a haunted house, because it doesn't matter what you put. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's scarier if you have context, but
Go back to some of the early Horror Nights with Maximum Carnage. Undertaker. And my favorite is they did a house based on Angel, the spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's true.
Like, what was it? It's vampires, but how scary was Angel? Angel wasn't scary at all.
But and I will say, it makes it that much more powerful when the house is scary,
Well,
So that's. I think it's a smart move. I'm scared for the line. It's one of those. I want to go. If I go, you're going to do probably a Thursday, Sunday, or a Friday, Sunday. I'm going to do a Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
And one night, I'm just going to have to I have 2 plans, and this is a solid plan for anybody that goes to Halloween Horror Nights, and it's either American Horror Story, whatever the popular house that is here. Go straight there or save it for the end of the night. Don't do it in the middle. I went straight to American Horror Story
2 years ago, and that was the mistake. I waited in that line way too long when the other houses had
nothing. And that's this year. When I went, I knew AHS was going to be crazy, and I slammed through Blood on the Bayou. I don't know these names. I'm so bad. I forgot the names from last year. But I slammed through I did both stage houses. Fallen, which was incredible. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, because no one is there. Yeah. And then you just get in line at the end of the night and go for it. Unfortunately, the crowds kind of spread out that Saturday night. There was risks of storms, so that kept people away. And I got to go through it. But if there's a Cabin in the Woods, prime example, and Walking Dead, I did at the very, very end of the night, got in line. Yeah, you're going to lose some characters, because if the line is, 2 hours long, they give people the option to go home if they want, or make OT. Well, they used to. I don't know if that's still a thing. And at least they're going to let you through, and you're going to get to see it. So big key thing also, and this is kind of what screwed me last year, I wanted to go to one of the holding zones, but I didn't want to buy a park ticket. There was nothing. I didn't think that money was worth going in and spending the whole day, but the holding zones are clutch. If you can get in the holding zone by the sound stages all day, I mean, you'll get through all of them. So,
well, I'm excited about this season. I haven't quite chosen where I'm going yet. I'm targeting Horror Nights Orlando. I'm targeting Virginia. I want to do
I would love to join you.
And Busch Gardens. I want to get there, do those houses. There's some nice roller coasters there too I want to ride. But overall, who knows where life's going to take me this year.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm still big in the local scene. Last year getting in a bunch of good local hauses, and honestly, I kicked off haunt season a month ago. in March. And if you guys are part of the Hauntoverse universe over the extension of COASTER.net, I'm going to be uploading some photos from I got to do a lights on and off tour of Nashville Nightmare, one of the top haunts in the country all of a sudden, which is really cool to watch it grow. We got to go through all 4 houses. I got to go through all of them by myself. And then we did a lights on tour and a backstage tour. It was really awesome, but it was weird because it was in March and it was snowing, which is crazy. But strobe lights and snow, my new favorite thing. So it was pretty phenomenal looking.
You know what? We're going to have to do a whole show on that by itself because that's worthy of a whole discussion.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can go on for hours about that.
Yeah.
But, it's fair. It's April. We got to touch base. We'll go over some light rumors. None of this is confirmed, but here's my prediction for Halloween Horror Nights this year. I think we'll see. I'm only going to do a few because again, it's so early. There's things going around. I think we'll see 10 houses. I think we'll see an even split on intellectual property versus original because last year's originals. What is the name of the Scarecrow house? I've been trying to avoid not knowing the name.
Is it
Fallen was the Gothic one.
Was Hive.
The Hive, no. Hive was the vampire one that was supposed to be Conjuring, which, by the way, Conjuring got dropped and turned into the Hive, which was still fine. We might actually get Conjuring this year. That's one of my predictions. Conjuring / Annabelle. Obviously, Stranger Things and It. Those are my 3, IP, confirmations that I think is going to happen. I really hope we see Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat was the best scare zone. It was everything that Central Park or whatever that scare zone has been in the last few years. That was the culmination of the perfect execution. It was beautiful. I wish I had a second night to just sit in there, but make it a house. Trick or Treat's one of my favorite Halloween movies. Make it a house, and I'm there. I'll put a contingency on it. You make that a house, I am there. I'm booking my ticket.
This is what we always do.
This is what we do. You make Trick or Treat a house. Bass is coming to Orlando. What was the Scarecrow house? Because
it's called Scarecrow the Reaper.
That was it. Okay, so I'm an idiot, but you all can make fun of me. That house, people told me it was the scariest house that year, and the hype kind of ruined it. I went through it the first time. I was like, this is amazing, but yeah, okay, it was scary. The third time through that house, I got the big dude at the lead up, the boom, walking around. What's that thud? What's that? The way they handled scenes this time kind of alienated people more so than they normally do, but the payoffs were just top notch, absolutely nightmare fuel. And that house, I remember people coming out of the walls with faces. When you can pop out, I remember Hades did this. When you can pop out and I look at you and I'm still upset at what I'm looking because I don't know what it is, that's a win. And that house just absolutely crushed that. So, So if they can keep that quality, and that's why I think everyone raved about the original houses, something we've seen kind of go to the wayside. And the only time we actually get a few of them is when one of their properties falls through, like happened the last few years. Yeah. I think that they'll finally do it. If they have 10 houses, make it an even split, maybe a 60-40, but I don't know what other intellectual property they do. So
they come up with stuff. There's some surprises here. It'll be interesting to see. We'll do some updates for you as well as we come through this season. As they come up. So we didn't have time to do the Stranger Things update, so we said why not do a whole Uncut on it.
We said screw it. We'll put them all in. That's a throwback reference.
Uncut, do it all. Right. So I think with that, Brian, I think we're going to call it an evening here. It is Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I didn't even bring it up. That was the whole motivation for doing this show. It's Friday the 13th. Come on.
Come on. I got to go scare some people right now.
I got to go scare some. I'm going outside with a Jason mask right now. I'm going to get arrested. Don't do that. It's a bad plan. I'm going to go play. Shout out to anybody who has video games. Friday the 13th. Don't listen to what people say. It's amazing. It's so much fun. Get the game.
Well, as always, thank you for joining us here on Hauntoverse Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And this is Brian Bass signing off from Nashville, Tennessee. And Rob Dole, you better be watching.
And as always, scare on, Scare Warriors.